guys, come here. Welcome back to Langrisser and News from the Future. So right on part 1 of the video, we'll be featuring the new heroine for the month of May to June 2023 in the CN server featuring Iris. So right, watch to the end for the translations that I've done for you guys to check out the effect of the skills as you watch. So are you guys ready? Before I carry on, a very great thanks to information shared and provided by the Langrisser mobile app. So are you guys ready? Here we go. So right, featuring Iris, who is from new characters, and for this new character that has been issued a few great news or information for you guys. So first off, as you can see here, Iris is not a normal magical humanoid being only. She is a mix of both humanoid and also a centaur design at the same time, and not to mention she is a female character. So if you guys are of any, hoof fetish, she is definitely the one you will like. And the other great news is that with the closures of the time brief, which ends with Langrisser 5, the end of Legends currently, and there has not been no new time brief for almost half a year or 1 year. So currently there is a new event known as Interstellar, which is actually kind of like another kind of side quest or time brief, which will give you guys an understanding of another character's stories, but at the same time you will be able to collect and gain tickets, crystals, and other items from the daily event itself. So great news for you guys if you need to save tickets or you want to try to maintain as a almost F2P player. So alright, hey, back to the skills and talents. So on this part of the video, we'll be only going through the talent, the exclusive skills and 3Cs, and only on the demo play we'll be going through everything that they got. So alright, Iris, not to be confused with the collaboration hero from Sakura Wars. This new Iris, it's a monster musume, or you can kind of treat her as a special celestial being. So slightly quick backstory is about her is that she and the other characters, which you guys will be seeing on the second part of the video, something milk. Yep, the lady who produced milk. Yep. They are supposedly guardians for the end of the door, which is basically the guardians guarding the dimensional doors to the multiverse in the Langrisser world, or at least they're part of the guardians. But apparently she has been used by and defeated by Super Yani or under Kelmo. She get tricked and then sustained heavy injuries, then came to the Langverse, and somewhere before the whole arc or story starts on the third continent, she lost her memory and slightly lost her power for the time being, and after being saved by certain characters or female characters in the stories, certain red hair characters that is going to be coming out soon, I presume, and become the retainer or the protector of the garden of that characters. So it was until recently that she started to gain back her memories and some powers back, and not to mention she has her brother, and I'm going to presume that her brother is going to be a centaur like her. If not, the story is going to get weird. So alright, moving on to, and this is where we actually start. Sorry guys. So alright, for her faction, she's from Meteor, Yelis, and Mythical Realm. So alright, her talent are as follow. The name is known as Peaceful Night Guardian. So her talent as follows: movement is not restrained by terrain. And this means that she's able to cross any terrain despite whether she's cavalry or infantry crossing water or other stuff. She will not be restrained by terrain. Then she has a self-increment of defense by 20%. Then for each step you move, increase attack by 5%. The max cap is at 20%, meaning at 4 steps you'll reach your cap, which is a very great deal. You don't have to like other hero that you have to move 5 steps or more to actually reach the cap limit. So for the cap, which is very good. I mean, it actually triggers much easier. Then if you have 2 charge of Key of God, or in long story short, I'm going to call it KOG, Key of God, at the start of the game or at the battle, then when you end your turn, you can choose up to 2 locations to place and the maximum use of 2 charges of KOG on the locations you want to assign. So just know that KOG, the Key of God itself, do not have any great abilities by itself. They are actually a means for your characters to trigger your act again effect. Yeah, so by itself it do not has any inbuilt ability or mechanism directly. Okay, so when you end your turn, you can choose up to 2 locations and use the 2 max charges of Key of God. So the mechanism of Key of God is that when Iris enter and land in allies KOG locations, the charge on the location will be removed and allow Iris to move 4 steps and attack again. So this act again effect can only trigger once per turn, and buff you bring will not be reduced. So this Key of God effect is for, so at the first of the turn you'll be moving any locations. You're going to stay at your stationary locations and you're going to place the Key of God. Then on next turn you will start moving to the Key of God location. You'll retrieve the Key of God, and then you proceed to move 4 steps and then you can attack again. This is just to trigger an act again effect. So the Key of God effects last for 2 turns and can only be recast after you retrieve or remove it first. Then last but not least, only one ally's KOG can be placed within 3 blocks range, and when KOG is placed on defensive terrain, it will gain higher terrain coverage effects. So by default, the KOG is not like omnipotent. It's not like gonna be like Rosalia's sort of guardian effect. So the KOG will only have or become an actual high terrain coverage terrain itself only when at defensive terrain. If not, it's going to be treated as a normal terrain effect and it can be covered up or replaced by other effects easily. So you got to take note. Other than that, by itself and under normal situations, it's not going to have any special effect. Its means is just to trigger the AA skills for Iris. So alright, let's repeat again. Number 1, Iris movement is not restrained by terrain. Number 2, you increase her defense by 20%. 3, for each step you move, increase her attack by 5%. The max cap is at 20%. 4, you have 2 charge of KOG at the start of the game. 5, when you end your turn, you can choose up to 2 locations to play and use your max charges of KOG. So the effect as follows: when Iris enter and land in allies KOG locations, the charge on the location will be removed and allow Iris to move 4 steps and attack again. This act again effect can only be triggered once per turn, and buff you bring will not be reduced. 6. KOG effect lasts for 2 turns and can only be recast after you retrieve or remove first. 7. Only one ally's KOG can be placed within 3 blocks range. 8. When KOG is placed on defensive terrain, it will gain high terrain coverage effect. So as you can hear, though it is treated as a terrain, it do not have any specialty or specific inbuilt skills, like anyone who stand on this location will be healed or will have debuff against enemy. You do not give buff of debuff by the talent itself, so it's, in just of my opinion, it may not be that useful, except for casting Act again. Okay, followed by exclusive skill 1. Sorry, she has 2 paths, Cavalry and Holy class. So, alright, on her first path, 3rd class, you'll see the new exclusive skills from the Cavalry path. So, the skills is known as Punishment of Break Night or Night Break. So, it's a 2C skills, it has a CD of 3, is a self-casting skills range. The AoE is a physical 2 range effect. So, it's an AoE that you cast from yourself. You do not get to target a locations. So, the effects are as follows. Deal 0.36 time AoE damage to enemies 2 blocks around you. Then apply debuff effects to damage enemies for 2 turns, reduce their defense by 20% and reduce their magic defense by 30%. And if enemies are on KOG locations, the damage deal will be increased by 20%. So right, this is where the KOG start helping, but it's not because by itself, but it's because of the skill cast by Iris. So right, let's repeat again. The effect as follows. So number 1, you will deal 0.36 time AoE damage to enemies 2 blocks around you. Number 2, you will apply the debuff effect to enemies for 2 turns, reduce their defense by 20% and reduce their magic defense by 30%, which is, I'm gonna say it's very good, very nice, because there's rarely has any skills that help reduce enemies' magic defense, especially for AoE skills. And 3, if the enemies are on the KOG locations, the damage deal will be increased by 20%. So you're gonna do like around 0.4 times or 4 plus times AoE damage. So you're gonna do slightly more, but do know that the range itself is actually quite short to block. So I suppose we are going to go with Balance Blade for her build if you want to do like a support characters for her to help deal more damage against enemies. So alright, that's it for her exclusive skill 1. Moving to exclusive skill 2 from her Holy class. So which is her second path, 3rd class, as you can see. So it's known as Silence Night Baptism. So this is Act Again skills. It's a 1C skills. It has a CD of 3. The range is self-targeting. The AoE is 1 ring or circle. Okay, the effect are as follows. Caster skills and steal 1 random buff from enemies standing 1 ring or circle around you. Then if there are allies KOG in your AoE range, you can remove the key and trigger your talent Act Again effect. So this means that using these skills give you or help you triggers 2 Act Again skills in a turn. So this will greatly reduce the cooldown of her skills, which is very great. So this is very effective. So okay, and the range, because there's a 1 circle or one ring, so it's a 3x3 tiles around you, so you can easily retrieve your KOG. So let's repeat or recap the effect again. So number one, cast the skill and steal one debuff, and steal one buff, random buff from enemies standing one ring or circle around you, and two, if they are allies KOG in your AoE range, you can remove the key and trigger your talent's act again effect. So it's pretty cool that as long as enemies are one ring or circle around you, you will get to steal one random buff each from all of them. So this is pretty cool. So it would be great if you manage to steal characters that need faction buff, like Epsilon. So without his faction buff, he's gonna like lose all the buff he has, the talents effect he has. So right, moving to her 3C. The 3C effect is known as Brilliance Door No Front, or you can treat it as the direct translate, known as Showing Off. Yup, I know it's a very weird translation, but just bear with me, guys. So right, the CD of the skill is 4, the range is 2, it's AoE physical single target skills. It has both passive and active effect. So for passive, when you trigger your talent's act against skills effect, you will gain the following effect for one turn. You receive recover 30% units HP effect and obtain damage deal increased by 20% for one turn. So the passive are only as follow. Number one. So okay, the passive are as follow. When you trigger your talent's act again effect, you gain the following for one turn. Number one, recover 30% of units HP. Number two, obtain damage deal increased by 20%. So if you stack with the exclusive skill 1, and when the conditions are met with, you'll receive the skill damage will be increased by 40%, and that's a lot. Okay, then for active skills I follow. Attack and deal 1.6 times damage to an enemy in a straight line direction. You ignore 30% of your enemy's defense. Then close combat soldiers you bring will attack together. Then using these skills will cause position shifting effect for one turn by the following effect. You knock back enemy by 2 steps. You reduce the movement of enemy by -2. These skills cannot be dispelled, and if the knockback path has other units blocking in its path, or it is an impassable terrain, they will be considered stunned. They cannot take actions for next turn. So long story short, if the conditions are met, it's gonna be like the slip effect from Bozo that will jam the enemy and it cannot be dispelled. So it's pretty cool. Then followed by, after attacking with these skills, you can move another 2 steps, but in a straight line direction, meaning you can only travel 2 steps again in the up, down, left, right directions only. And last effect, obtain damage received reduced by 20% for a turn. So right, that's it for the skill. It's not too shabby, but definitely not too great, because the tanker that's gonna actually block or gonna jam her up, that first come to everyone's mind is one, Hilda, and second will be Landis. And not to mention with the coming rumor of SP Landis as the next hero, that brings me some concern about the functionality of this hero in itself. But nonetheless, we'll find out soon, and let's repeat the effect again. So number one, attack and deal 1.6 times damage to an enemy in a straight line direction. Number 2, ignore 30% of enemies' defense. Number 3, close combat soldiers you bring will attack together, so this means it's the range skills. Number 4, cause position shifting effect for 1 turn with the following effect. Knock back enemies by 2 steps, and then reduce the movement speed of enemies by 2. And this effect cannot be dispelled, and if the knockback path has other units blocking their path, or if the back is an impassable terrain, they cannot take action next turn. So this will only be triggered when, for example, you're attacking an enemy and they get pushed back. If they get pushed back in the 2 steps while there has been 1 allies behind them, or the back is a pillar, which is impassable terrain, this will cause stun on them, and the stun cannot be dispelled. So that's number 4. Number 5, after attacking with these skills, you can move another 2 steps, but in a straight line, up, down, left, right directions. Number 6, after casting these skills, you'll obtain damage received reduced by 20% for 1 turn. So after casting these skills, you'll gain a damage reduction buff for yourself against enemies. So this will in return increase her survivability. So that's it for Iris. So what did you guys think? Did you think she's great, normal, or not so good? Leave it down in the comment sections below. We will see you guys on the next video featuring the Milky characters. So alright, this is Kami. Watch to the end for the translations I did for you guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.